The Republican resistance to climate action is growing. So, what are the long-term investment risks for U.S. businesses in green energy sectors tied to international partnerships?
Yeah, before I answer that, let me just add to what Justin said about soft power because it's really important. I can give you a personal example. I'm on the board of trustees of Lebanese American University in Beirut. And the whole concept, one of the concepts of soft power involves educating future leaders in the American system and way of life as it influences them as they go on. A perfect example in Lebanon is AUB and LAU, the two large American universities there, which have educated many of the leaders of the Middle East. And cutting aid to these types of institutions is a terrible thing, and hopefully they'll wake up and realize that. As to your question on climate, yes, it's an issue, but it's also a pretty popular issue. The Democrats went too far in the climate area, and and most of the Republican supporters, frankly, are pretty happy with the idea of clawing some of the climate initiatives back. Yes, it will have an effect on our relationships with other countries who care about this, but that too is probably not going to be very long lasting.
Mr. Russell, in an era of polarization, can international pressure compel bipartisan cooperation to address crises like pandemics or escalating geopolitical rivalries?
I think if we had the answer to that, we'd all be rich. That is such a complex question, a great question, but a complex one. My take on this is I'd have to go back. We have to go back and we have to look at the historical aspect of what got us to here. One would think that aggressive Russia would unite the U.S. and its NATO and European allies in coming up against and having a strong position, calling out the war crimes of Vladimir Putin. That has not happened. We would think that a situation like the Gaza question, which could ignite a broader, larger regional instability that could put national security interests of the United States in our NATO partners at risk, that could be something that could bring us together. It has not. So, we're trying to look into a crystal ball that nobody has seen before. In my over 35 years of being around government and my over 25 being around foreign policy and politics, I've never seen a situation that has been so confusing and has literally seen an American government in an identity crisis when it comes to how we deal with our adversaries and how we deal with our allies. And that is probably the most worrisome part of trying to analyze where we fit into the global community right now.
Mr. Tanous, how might the Republican Party's refusal to raise the debt limit by $5 trillion impact the investor sentiment and global perceptions of U.S. fiscal responsibility and economic reliability?
Let me make this really simple. They have to raise the debt limit because even with the present budget that the administration has proposed, there is a $2 trillion deficit. The deficit has to be financed. The only way you can finance it is by raising the debt limit. So the bottom line is it's going to get raised because there is no other alternative. And sadly, this is becoming a big issue in international finance. Just start looking at the fact that interest rates on U.S. Treasuries are inching up. And one of the dangers we face is that foreign purchasers, which is about a third of all purchasers of U.S. Treasury debt, may start demanding higher interest rates as a result of the ever-increasing deficits that we are incurring. And that could precipitate a financial crisis.
Mr. Russell.
And Haney, if I can just jump in and
Sure.
and dovetail on that.
Go ahead.
The reality is, when we talk about national security interests and risks to U.S. global standing. To what Mr. Tanous' great point is, you look at the situation where we have China, which owns a substantial amount of our debt. If Xi Jinping really wanted to be a thug and really wanted to disrupt the global economy, he could literally call in the marker on his debt or force the U.S. for higher interest rates, which would create we just issued a digital white paper this past week talking about mutually assured economic destruction. Xi Jinping realizes that he has the ability to really put a chokehold on the U.S. power in the global economy, but is it in his best interest? Does he hurt himself by doing that? This is something we have not seen in many, many years, if ever. And that is something that has to be kept an eye on, not just by the U.S., not just by Beijing, but by London, Berlin, Moscow, Singapore. All of the global economic centers have to keep an eye on this, because this could be the bigger threat than any sort of armed conflict that we see.
Mm-hmm.